Welcome to episode 113 of the Road is Dead podcast. I'm your host of sorts, Rob Curtis. In the studio today with me is
Leah Sanda.
And joining remotely,
Tim Strelecki.
We should get Mike back in on one. I know he's been really, really busy, and he's been trying to get in on some. But
Yeah.
that was just dawning on me. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Summer's
Certainly.
coming to a close, but I know he's got some challenges going on. At least the last time I talked to him, he's got some challenges going on with his project. So if anybody's listening and remembers, take a few minutes and go out and visit his site. Maybe make a donation. It'll definitely help out. Busy weekend, cyclocross season kicking in. I want to say full steam. I think we're like in the middle of it. And we're still at the beginning of it. It was only round 2 of the CCC this last weekend. But more importantly, USCX is, what do they call this now? They've got the series is what? That one's done.
The series is USCX.
Okay. And then
four weekends in a row, 8 races.
And then what do they still consider like Major Taylor and
those are just C1, just random
just
C1s and C2s. Yeah.
I thought there was some other schedule they were a part of, not necessarily points or anything, but
no.
USCX had its own point structure and all that.
Which races are in the USCX?
The first 4.
You have the first one is Go Cross in Virginia. Then you have Rochester. Then Charm City in Baltimore, and then Trek.
Okay.
And I think
so we're done.
I think at one point, Trek was the finale. I think at one point, Kings was in the USCX. I think 2 years ago it was in the USCX, but for some reason I may be incorrect on that. But I thought it was at one point and lumped into an iteration of the USCX.
I think, if anything, the reason why they would be out is because of scheduling and timing at this point. I know a lot of people have been complaining of the scheduling and timing for the USCX series, but the reality is you've got all those weekends together, and it's all the beginning of the year, and it's before the Belgian schedule even kicks off. So it allows people an opportunity to race if they want to race in Europe, they want to race here, whatever.
Yeah.
I know I've heard some people say they'd like to see the points spread out over more weekends and have it go a little bit further or include some different races. But the reality is I think it actually went pretty well this year. And at least the way that I judge it is I actually kind of paid attention to it this year. So obviously it was good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I didn't hear too much negativity about it other than, little qualms here and there, like you had mentioned, the scheduling and whatnot. But, for amateur racing, it's cool. It doesn't really mean as much to the amateur fields as it does to the professional fields, obviously. So they're going to have their little things to nitpick about. But I think it's great that we even have something for them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see. The last weekend, though, you guys went to Cincy. Both of you had experiences out there. First time visit for both of you to Cincy.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm saying it like that. I haven't been to Cincy. It's been on my bucket list, kind of like what you've been saying, Tim. It's been on my bucket list to get out there.
Yeah.
For some reason, every year I just don't really know the timing, or it just doesn't work out well enough for me. But I would like to get out there. But of course, I want to hear your guys' impressions and kind of how your weekends went. Whoever wants to go first.
Ladies first.
Trying to figure out where to start. I haven't focused on cyclocross in a really, really long number of years. And mostly when I was racing cross, I just kind of stuck with our local scene and just had a lot of fun with it. I really didn't have any specific goals attached to any of it. It was just go race, have fun. This year, I was like, maybe I want to go race nationals. And if I want to go race nationals, what do I need to do to prepare me for nationals? So I probably need to go race not so much that I need stiffer competition. There's good competition for me at my level here in Chicago, but I wanted to be challenged with some harder courses. And so I talked to you, Tim, about some of the UCI event weekends and which ones would be good to go to versus, going and racing in Wisconsin. And that was kind of my approach. So this I did Englewood, I did track, and I decided to go out and do Kings because I'd heard so many good things about it, and it's a great course, and I knew it would be a good challenge probably for me. I think my technical skills it's been a little disappointing to me this year with my racing is that my technical skills in cross have gotten severely rusty. I think I just took for granted that it was all just kind of still there. It's still riding a bike, and I know how to do that. But I definitely noticed a significant improvement over the course of the weekend. I was glad I raced both days. I really spent a lot of time focusing on intentionally thinking about my cornering and how I was body positioning. And I just felt like I got better and faster throughout the weekend in terms of my handling. And that was awesome. I got more comfortable making some aggressive passes.
Nice.
And now I'm not racing for the podium. That was something that was kind of interesting out there, was that they lumped the women, I say women elite, I'm talking like the non-UCI women's race, just like your top category. And then I'm category 3. And then the masters, women 40 plus, they kind of all put us in one race. So it was just one race. I could have signed up for masters. I didn't because I wanted a bigger field. I didn't know that they were going to start us all together in one big race. So I signed up for Cat 3. And half my field was literally 13, 14, 15-year-old girls that are on these big teams that are like up and coming. I'm like, you're going to see some of these girls become pros. I mean, there's some fast girls.
It's always cool, but it's horrible.
It's
to race
awesome.
Against.
It's super awesome. And it was so exciting. It was so humbling and just like, I love it. Yeah. But also, it's like, okay, remember, Leah, you are 56. So all things considered, I had some amazingly good battles with some awesome women on the course where we kept fighting back and forth and passing and repassing. And it was really good racing for me. And every race I continue to learn more and also learn what I need to work on more. And so I came back from Kings with like, okay, I'd sit down with my coach and say, okay, this is what I was feeling. What do we need to do to work on this? And so it was awesome. I was so glad I went out there. It was such a great course.
Yeah.
I had heard from a lot of people that have done it in the past that it used to be a lot more technical and more challenging with run-ups and stuff, and that they had taken some of that out. I've never been there before, so I don't know. The only time I was off the bike was for the barriers. But there was a lot of stuff in there that once I started really getting my groove with cornering, I was flying through some stuff that before I was on the brakes. And then by day 2, I was just no brakes, flying through the woods and with a lot more confidence. And so it definitely, it challenged that part of my riding for sure. And I loved every second of it. So that's me.
Nice. Very good. Yeah. So I saw
you want to wrap up your finish? Did you put your finish in there?
My finish?
Yeah.
I finished.
If you want to, I don't even.
I think I was 11th out of 16 on Saturday and like 9th out of 12 or something on Sunday. So nothing really to write home about really, but I just, I blew up on my start both days. Like I started sprinting and completely blew up. Everybody passed me, and now I'm working from the back of the field, and I had to claw my way up and pass people the whole race. And I would gain on people and pass them, gain on people and pass them. And then, I mean, that's definitely something I need to work on. So, that was a little bit of a gut punch there.
Yeah, the uphill asphalt starts are You certainly have a tendency to go a little harder than you probably want to, not
Yeah.
realizing that, oh, there's a whole nother, you know, 44 and a half minutes left. I shouldn't have done
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I too believe that this, I was thinking about it and I was having a conversation with somebody and I was thinking about it that this might be the best track that I've ever ridden, ever.
Really?
Yeah. In terms of its flow,
Yes.
the balance of it,
Yes.
the technical elements that were there, and how they became more technical the faster you went.
Yes. 100%.
Um,
Nothing was unrideable, but
no,
the challenge to ride it fast.
yeah, and the front half of the course, the first maybe 2 minutes is pretty wide open, not super
Mm.
technical, just to kind of like get the field set and do its thing. Then you go past pit one. Um, it's pretty, it kind of starts, it started undulating and up and down and left and right and, little bumps here and all these little features, small little sand pit out of a corner, up a punchy climb down, there's so much undulation on the course that for me and for what I like to see as a rider and my background, I was smiling the whole time. Like
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I was riding a pump track. And I was like, this is like, I'm so glad I'm here right now. I'm
Nice.
so glad
Yeah.
I'm here right now. And it was such a well put together track. Now, mind you, it was 65, 70 degrees, dry as a bone, dusty, burnt in, just summer
Mm.
cyclocross, if you will. This track, if it rained, would be super hard,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
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 super duper
And
hard. And it
that
would
venue's
ride.
known for being pretty wet most years, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's been just insane. But I mean, we got lucky. We had dry weather, nice weather, a little bit of wind, not too bad. But just the way that this track rode for me personally, and the things that I was able to do, and the way I could ride comfortably, I was excited. So yeah, I loved every minute of it. I mean, Saturday was a little bit of a bummer. I kind of threw away the win there with I got the whole shot, and then well, I didn't get the whole shot either day. But I kind of the day one I took like I don't know the first half of the track to move into the lead, and then I got a good gap because like Leah's field, my race was non-UCI 1, 2, 3, so anywhere from 15-year-old rippers to whatever category or whatever age. And then single speed. So that field went off. And then it was men 40 plus and 50 plus, and we went off 30 seconds later. Both days, there was a crash right at the back of the single speed field, a huge one the first day. And then the second day, we were like, oh, they made it. And then they just wadded up at the first corner right from the transition of the asphalt on into the field, just
Yeah.
huge carnage. So we got delayed a little bit, but we got the race off. Um, Saturday, yeah, I passed into the lead on the first lap somewhere like halfway through, and then trying to work my way through all this traffic that's there. I got a little bit ahead of myself, and I got a little bit in the red, and then there was this coming out of the woods, the wooded section. There's
The
like a
gravelly
flat,
turn.
yeah, there's a flat corner that has like moon dust and gravel kind of just spread out throughout it, and I overcooked it and just lost the front end and crashed, and my chain fell off. Um, so I was lost about 30 seconds because it came off the front, and I tried to get on and go, and then I couldn't
Did
pedal,
it
and I looked down and it popped off the back pulley.
did it
So
did it come totally out the front?
it came halfway off. It tweaked the
Yeah.
it it tweaked the keeper a little bit. Um, so I got it on the front, remounted, tried to pedal, couldn't pedal, stopped, got off, looked, and I'm like, it's on the front. And then I looked at the rear and it was off the upper pulley. So I was like, damn it. So I had to struggle with that, get it back on. And by then I think I was in like fourth, and then trying to trying to navigate through the field and get back. It was too little too late. I finished second, but I closed a probably 25-second gap down to 2 seconds by the end. So
Nice.
that was good. I mean, I went super deep to try to win that, and I felt it Sunday when I woke up. I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
I mean, I rode back to my hotel from the venue on Saturday, and I was like, ooh, this that was a big effort. And then Sunday was, same field positioning or same lump of events in one field. And I was like, all right, I got a second place start, got past the leader real early in the lap. And I was like, I'm just going to pin it. So I pinned it and just started picking my way through all the traffic. And I just wanted to get out of sight, because you get out of sight there and you're in the mix and people can't find you anymore. So that was my goal, and I did that, and then I eventually rode away to the win. So that was pretty cool. I was happy to redeem myself after, such a stupid mistake, really. I mean, there's no other way to put it. It was just dumb. It was rider error. Like, I was completely way ahead of the game and not focused on what I was doing, and thinking like too far up ahead and not focused on what I was riding, and I paid for it. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
So 1 and a 2 for the weekend.
Yeah. I'm satisfied with that. And I noticed, the things I was struggling with earlier in the season have corrected themselves. Still got a little bit of a ways to go, but it's early-ish.
Yeah.
But the lack I was, or how should I put it? The things I was missing are starting to appear. So that's good.
Good.
Awesome.
Now, in general, both of you guys, general review of the course, you guys both liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely an event you would come back to.
100%. And the venue
100%.
too. I mean, it was really easy to get in and out of. It was really easy to find a place to park,
Mm-hmm.
and
It's very well run.
Yeah, very well run.
Very well run.
Absolutely.
Everything was communicated. The only thing I thought was weird, and this is something it's nobody's fault but my own, because I didn't think to check, was that Sunday's bib number was different than Sunday's. So you had to like recheck in, and I've never had to do that at a 2-day. It's always like, here you go, here's your number.
You pick everything up for the whole weekend.
She explained that apparently they didn't order. They ordered the numbers wrong in order for it to be reused or something. I don't know.
We need to order our numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, either way, it's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I just never experienced that. But it was very easy. There wasn't like, a line around the block waiting to get registration.
Yeah, no, everything, it was good. I mean, there was only one food truck, and they closed, I thought, kind of early on Saturday, which bummed me out because I was hungry, and I showed up at like 2:57, and they're like, yeah, we're done. Like,
they might have been out of food. I don't know. Being the only one
they
there.
said we got to be out of here by 3, so I was like, okay.
Wow.
But you're really close to where there's plenty of restaurants and stuff, so it's not even far away from anything. And the hotel I stayed at was really nice. It was a mile away from the course. And I never had to leave the hotel when I was there. They had a restaurant at the courtyard by Marriott there. That was a good choice. And huge thank you to Nate Knowles and his Proterra team for allowing Tim and I to set up camp with them. That was super awesome. So, no, 100%, really good.
Nice. Anything else from the weekend you guys want to throw in, or?
I would say if you ever have an opportunity to go and do this, it's an easy drive to get there. The event is well run. As we said, parking, logistics of the whole event is easy. Go and try it. It's really, really fun. Really, really fun.
Worth it. 5-hour drive. It wasn't bad. It went fast.
No. I mean, I was home. I left. I was home by 7:00. It was perfect.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Nice. I don't even think I was home by 7:00 on Sunday.
Speaking of Sunday,
I got to do some math.
Let's hear about your experience at Ye Old Jackson Park.
Okay.
I saw your result.
I'm sorry.
I know Rob's
you don't have to apologize to me.
Rob's been very sour about his Sunday. We had a little bit of a conversation earlier. He didn't feel good, and I think I know why, and he doesn't really want to accept it. But
You overtrained?
Sure.
Too much running?
a bunch of beer and other fun stuff on Saturday night does not lead to a good race on a Sunday. Sorry.
No,
You can't get around that.
I stayed up very late on Saturday night thinking it'll be all right.
That's your fault, Rob.
And then
There's
I
no
woke
one
up
to
at
blame
4
but you.
a.m. Yeah, I got 4 hours of sleep. I still got to bed early. I got to bed before midnight, but no, it was too early. I was feeling good going in. I thought I was feeling good going in, but last week, because we had the off weekend, I kind of went. I had been starting to feel a little, I don't know, almost like my form was fading a little bit, if that makes sense. And I felt the need to put on a lot of volume, and didn't really care too much about the intensity. I just wanted to get some volume back in and get some time in the saddle. And so I did that. I rode almost every day that we had off, and then none of it had any real intensity to it. I always rely on our group ride to do that. We didn't have it last week. I mean, we had it, but the way the weather worked, Anthony and I ended up completely changing it, and we just did like 22 miles or something like that. So it was pretty short, and neither one of us was punching each other in the face on it. We were more just trying to keep warm and stop from shivering because it was just brutally cold with a lot of wind.
You did have practice Thursday night.
Did have practice. I don't really feel like I did much at that practice. I went and I rode earlier in the day so I could get enough volume, which means I did everything poorly pretty much all week. And Friday, I tried. I was like, hey, I got time. I'm going to go out and I'm going to ride. And I barely did an hour, and it was some of the slowest inspired riding I think I've done in a long time. But I was able to stop and take pictures of a snake and things like that. So, and then Saturday was like 2 hours, 2-hour ride, where we covered 22 miles. And that was with Julie and some friends of ours. And it was a ride that was a very big push for them to be able to get to and back. And so I was glad I was able to be a part of that and have them enjoy being out and being on a bike. We had an hour and a half stop at a coffee shop in the middle. So there was a lot of time spent in kit, and I should be fully recovered. I think my average power was like 50.
Well, those rides are fun to do and
They are.
have a place.
Yes.
But you do need to do some openers. You do need to punch some junk out of your legs. So you didn't do openers, and then you partied too much and stayed up too late Saturday night. So there you go.
And then driving out there, we got there first thing in the morning. I don't know about you guys, but when I had to shove food in first thing in the morning and then drive, and and you're in a rush to get out the door anyway, there's one thing that you got to do when you get to the venue, and most people that have raced know what I'm talking about. And I got out of the car, and Anthony was there. He's starting to unload stuff, and I just ran right for where those porta potties always are, and they were not there. And I kind of went, oh, that's not good. And I was not the only one.
Don't look me in the eyes. You just dropped trout right there.
No,
don't look me in the face.
I actually heard because we were set up near registration, and it was just a long stream of people coming up, going, "Hey, we're the porta potties around here," and there was at one point I kept hearing, "Well, there's plenty of bushes around here," so
that doesn't.
Dude, so no food truck and no porta potties.
It was an issue. It was enough of an issue that I basically I was like, ignore it while I set up, and then I'll get it figured out. I was
throughout the entirety of the day.
Well,
zero.
At the start there, and
they showed up like an hour before the first race.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I was like, I'll just build the tent, and get everything set up, and then I should be good.
Mm-hmm.
And So I kind of ignored everything for a while, and I was like, they'll be here by the time we're done setting up camp. And I looked around; they were not. Then it started to become okay. It's less than an hour before the first race, and people are kind of starting to freak out. So I gotta go. And
need to take my pre-race poo.
It was interesting. It got to the point where it was like, I can't warm up. I can't even pre-ride at this point,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking I'm not going to get a pre-ride in. I'm not going to get a warm up in. I don't even know if I can race at this point. And I went and I just went to go sit in the car, and I just sat there and just waited
and farted
waited.
and farted.
And
oh boy.
Eventually I did see the truck show up and drive in, and I got out, ran right over. George Lambros beat me in the race to the porta potties, and we were all just like, and we like helped unload them, to an extent. It was like, yeah, we got it, let's go. And because you can't know, I mean, everyone was in the same boat, but so that kind of didn't help things for me. And then I got on the trainer at, Leah took her trainer because, it's her trainer and she had to go ride it. And so we had to find something else to do. And I found an old stationary trainer sitting around the shop. But in order to use that, I got to switch axles, and I got to do this and do that. And so it's a different routine. Finally get on that, and I start rolling. I do the start of my warm up, and it's the same kind of thing as Trek Day 2. I can't do the full warm up. I just can't get my brain into it. So I just yanked the cord because I'm like, I got to change axles. I got to do this, make sure the brakes are okay. Changed everything around, got set up, rolling around to do the race. It's just not clicking for me. And, I readjust the brakes that have been centered and fine, since I dished I set all of the rotors on all my wheel sets to be the same so that I can just swap them in and out and not have a problem. And for some reason, I felt like it was dragging. So I recentered it up. Fast forward to, a lap into the race where after every corner I hear some scraping, which is always a good feeling. Yeah. Especially if it took me a couple laps to figure out which brake it was and then start avoiding that brake. But yeah, start was meh. The course I think I think they did a really good course. I know some people complain, but everybody complains, and not everybody. There's a lot of complaining about just that venue in the courses that end up there. I think they do a good enough job for what it is. And I think in my experience, for all the ones that I've done there, I actually kind of enjoyed this one the most. It had, I don't know if you guys are going to believe this, it had a lot of turns. And
Really?
yeah. And it actually had the hill feature that they put in was really good. I think it was a well done feature, and it's definitely the most challenging thing on the course. Unfortunately, it was so close to the start that it became a log jam in every field for the most part. And it was interesting. In the women's field, our rider Megan unclipped on the way up it and like fell over and blocked everybody. But that was after Katie had gotten through. So Katie took off. And then there was a lot of talk afterwards that was a teammate move, and she did it on purpose to cause a break and everything. Megan's like, absolutely not. I wish I could say that.
So what if she did?
Right,
who cares?
Right.
There's team tactics all the time in cross.
It was an interesting little hill.
Yeah.
One fun thing is at the end of the day, during the Cat 4s race, Steve Fury, our local official, was racing it, got on that hill, and we decided to heckle at that point on the hill towards the end of the day. He got to that point where he lost momentum, couldn't make the turn, couldn't power through it, tried to get out off the bike, and then was like going backwards, and like losing his balance. And then the bike turned, and he ended up having to ride it down the hill. And
Oh,
at that
jeez.
second, Julie goes, "Hey, no riding backwards on the course," which was just, if you know him,
Yes.
that's perfect.
Yes.
So
He's like, I know, right?
I think we got a picture of it or a video somewhere. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
That's funny.
but
That's funny.
I think it was a good course. I rode those new wheels I built, and I had some Dugas small birds on there that I've been kind of tuning in pressure wise. I think I kind of nailed it. They had so much traction. I didn't even think about it the whole day. I didn't think about any of the turns or anything, but something was up. It just didn't feel right. I think also I do the mistake of actually taking the time to look at the competition that's going to be in there, either through cross results or whatever. And I started going, there's the people that are in here I don't beat, and there's not that stack of people that I've been beating this year that were in there. So I was already kind of like, if I race really well, I might finish second to last. So that was in the back of my head, and I was kind of going, this, I may be disappointed with this, but got in, started going. It was all right. I did not really feel warmed up until like the third lap, maybe. And then on the third lap, I started
So
going.
two to go.
Yeah, yeah.
2 to go.
No, yeah, about 2 to go. The second to last lap was my fastest lap, and
Nice.
some of that had to do with where it was, kind of how it was going and where it was laid out. I was not only getting the groove and starting to really feel how I could punch it through. You were in my head the whole time. I was downshifting before every turn so I could punch it out of it, which kind of helped, but also I think limited me, because I just have this tendency to, like, when I push a heavy gear, then I'm just going faster. I may not be quick coming out of that turn, but I end up with
You
a
don't have
better
any leg
speed.
speed.
But I end up with a better speed between the two. I think it's weird. It's kind of like when I was racing with the smaller chainring. Even though the gearing ratios were the same, I just went slower, and it's because the larger chainring just forces me to push a heavier gear, and I just go faster with it. It's just a weird. I don't know. Maybe it's something stupid with how I
Tell that
do
to your
this.
lower back when you're
I
5311 out of every
know. I
corner.
understand. I get it. I'm trying to learn, but
Trust me, when I look at you in 5311 out of every corner, you look miserable.
that's just my general misery.
That's just your general grimace
Yeah,
face?
yeah.
That's his everyday
That's
face.
my
Okay.
that's my O face for every second that I'm
Okay.
racing. But the
Okay, I'll ignore that going forward.
second,
He has resting misery face.
Yeah.
Yes.
second to last lap, I was doing my, there's nothing to salvage out of this race for me. I might as well. I was starting to almost kind of feel like I should phone it in. But like I said, it was getting to be, that was my fastest lap. And what was happening was I was starting to actually kind of gain ground on people I thought were gone. And I thought maybe there was a chance. I knew there wasn't, but I was thinking maybe there would be. But the big thing was I kept listening to Kenny, and I could kind of hear where everybody was. And I was doing the math in my head going, I can get through this race without getting lapped. And that's still a victory for me. I'm going to be happy with that if I can do that. So
Yeah.
I kind of laid it down and really pushed it, and actually got through the barriers really well, on that lap and everything, and started to come around. And then it started to dawn on me, they weren't that much further behind me. And I was like, if I'm close enough that even though they're not going to lap me, they may pull me at the line because of how close I am to the leaders, and just say, that was your last lap, you're done. But if they do that in the results, I'm going to be one lap down. And I'm like, I don't want that. And so I came up into the final straight, and I'm looking at Dave. I don't know if this did anything, but I'm looking at Dave, and I got my hand on my heart, and I'm like, please, I mouth like, please. And then I point down the track, and I'm like, let me go for one more. And, there was no real recognition of anything on their face, but then all of a sudden he just starts ringing the bell, so I got one more lap. So That's the first
Nice.
time ever that I think I've ever asked an official to please let me go out for one more lap. And I actually wanted to do another lap, and I was happy that I got it, and then actually went kind of hard, at least for half the lap, because it was like after a while they were doing the podium presentations, and I'm like, yeah, why am I pushing myself this hard anymore? So I phoned it a little bit in, but it was still like my second fastest lap for the day. So, but needless to say, I wasn't super happy.
You know how you ensure that you definitely get that lap without having to beg the officials?
Go faster.
Not only that, but get all those negative thoughts out of your head.
Sure. I know.
And like race. Because as soon as you race and have to start focusing on things, guess what? All that negative stuff goes away.
No, I know.
Because you got to focus.
But it wasn't. It still wasn't my best race. I wasn't super happy with it afterwards, but it was what it was. I was glad that I didn't get lapped. I'm taking that victory with me.
Yeah. Now you have a flat road grass crit coming up on Sunday.
That one should be interesting. If I'm on, I've had some of my best races there. So.
Hey, where?
Yeah.
At Bartlett.
That's not flat, is it?
It's not. I wouldn't call it flat.
Well, it's got an uphill start, and then it's pretty much flat.
Depends if he changes it. He was saying that he was looking at changing some of it.
Guess what? I'm racing Sunday.
Nice.
Bartlett.
I know that was up in the air because you might have to work as an official, but you are going to race.
Yeah, I was going to go race in Wisconsin on Saturday, and that race is 5 hours away. So
that's the regional
champion.
That's regional championship.
I know, and I thought, cool, I'm going to go to regionals. That'll be awesome, right? Yeah, 5 hours away, Minneapolis, basically, right across the river.
As soon as I saw that early on, it's like almost Minnesota, and I was like, I'm not going.
I don't want to say, oh, you're kidding.
They deserve it.
Well, being a part of the ICA, we've been for years and years and years. I did not know how any of the regional championships became regional championships, and it all seemed like kind of a joke to me.
Yeah.
And at first you think, oh, there's this huge process, and they must have to apply, and they know where regionals are going to be. No, it was just more of a matter of somebody going, hey, can we be regionals? Okay, cool, you're regionals. To complicate things even more, the idea of a region has been under fire for the last like 6-8 years and has been redefined like 3 times, to the point where within the last month, we were finally formally petitioned for a 2-year regionals in Wisconsin for 26, 27, 25, 26. And we actually started even arguing during that on, I don't want to say me because I don't care. I did not chime in at all on any of that, on what the region should be and shouldn't be. And you have Ohio that's like, saying they don't want to be a part of it. And yet we have OVCX, and then you've got Kentucky. People are like, well, Kentucky shouldn't be in this. And well, you got Inky. So if Indiana's in, then Kentucky's got to be in. So are you saying that Indiana's out? Well, let's kick Indiana out. Let's kick Ohio out. Let's kick, and then who you got left? Well, it's just going to be Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois, and all these arguments going on about it. And at the end of the day, I was like, I don't care. I don't care what championship it is, where it's at. And somebody was talking about how it should be something that's kind of like something that racers strive to achieve something in, and that they should want to go to it and challenge themselves in it and become a regional. And there was a big long thing that was written, and I kind of by somebody, and I read like 3 words in and went, I don't want to read that. I went back and read it like a week later, and I wish I would have read it at the time, because I would have really replied back and gone, let's put this into perspective. No one cares. I think they were talking about the fact that people don't really go to national championships anymore. It's more of just like a regional kind of race, and this and that, especially with regional championships. What's the point? And I don't know. I don't know if anyone, is there a regional championships jersey? Is there anyone who, the idea that maybe it should be a qualifier event for nationals, I think is a valid one. Maybe it should. because that would give it some value, in my opinion. If you have people that want to either, it would be interesting if you couldn't compete in a national championships, even in a masters category, unless you had qualified at a regional. The only problem though is that there's never enough people that race in a regional. I mean, what constitutes qualifying? Just showing up and doing it, because you'd hate to.
When I did the Midwest regionals in 2016 when they were in Sun Prairie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won that, and just in this, the most cold I've ever raced in the snow. It was wild.
Sun Prairie can be brutal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But like
I won it, and I was like, oh, now what?
Yeah.
And like it's
Where's the ticker tape parade?
I'm getting to, like what you had said. It really means it's nothing.
Yeah,
it means
it's
nothing.
meaningless. It should. I think that it would be great if it was structured in such a way that it actually did create some sort of certification or qualification for a national championships. It might give some people an opportunity to get into a national championships that they don't previously have access to. So it might be worth them traveling to do it.
At the very least, some sort of a consistent like winner's jersey or something like that. That's, I don't know, that at least something to recognize those who won it, I guess.
I mean, the Pan Ams get something.
They do.
The Pan Ams is
just
hardly participated.
It takes precedent over national championships as well too.
It absolutely does.
So if you win, that one I was listening to CX Series. I think they were discussing that, and they said that there was some debate as to whether or not the Pan Am takes precedent over the U.S. national because they've had some sort of like put their own rules out there saying that it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. But in Europe, if you win European championships, you have to wear that over your national championship jersey.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, there's a jersey pecking order.
Yeah. It's like being a world champion and only wearing your national championship jersey.
Right.
You have your nation, you have your region, and then you have worlds.
So
and
well, it's like you never see Bruner in his Stars and Stripes because he's got to wear the Pan Am kit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did not know that.
And we're never going to see the women's Stars and Stripes this year because Clara Honsinger is not going to race her bike.
I really respect the way she bowed out.
A lot of people were talking about that and saying it was really awesome and this and that. I don't know. I mean,
I read a story on it or why she decided to do it, and good for her.
What about it speaks to you on that?
What about it to me, as I interpret it, I was like, this woman has achieved in our sport very, very highly. She's accomplished, 4 national championships. She's been on the podiums overseas in Belgium and stuff like that. So she was awesome. She defeated Katie Compton finally to get, to be the heir apparent. So she's been successful, and just she bowed out gracefully. Like, she realized, like, this phase of my career was great. It means something to me. It may not mean something to other people. I'm just going to turn the page and start a new life.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I respected it. She didn't make some big like hoopla about it, or like, I'm retiring. Look at me. Look what I've done. She just bowed out gracefully.
I've got I don't know why, but it sends off in me these feelings, and I don't know that I know how to quantify them appropriately, but it just seems like to me like every other rider who's done well, and then just kind of gets to this point where they're like, I'm kind of sick of this. I don't want to do it anymore, so I'm going to go do something else.
Well, that's human. That's everybody.
I know, but
so
everyone does that.
But I don't celebrate that. I don't celebrate when people walk away from the sport just because they want to go and do something else.
When
what do you want? You want to give them a parade? You want them to have a farewell tour?
Well, I do celebrate when they have a full career and then they have a farewell tour or they retire. Not that I'm not saying that she had to do that, and I'm not saying that she can do whatever the hell she wants. But it's to me, it was like I had the opposite feeling. I'm sitting there going, well, here's a national champion, somebody who's in possession of our national championship, who hasn't even done us the decency of saying the national championship rider is going to be represented this season, or the jersey is going to be represented this season, or even to say, hey, I'm not going to race this year. Have fun. Whoever was second, consider yourself national champion or whatever. It's to me, it was like, okay. I mean, that's a position, one of the few positions that we actually have in this sport that we give some sort of kudos to, that we actually kind of look up to a degree. It is literally like the only position in cyclocross in the US that is seemingly meaningful and shows up. Like, if you're ever in a parking lot at a UCI race, you know where the national champion trailer is, because there's a line standing out there, people trying to get an autograph, or everyone talking, oh my God, I got so-and-so's autograph. It's like the only position that we've got in this sport. And then I understand, I mean, what she's supposed to do, not win it if she doesn't want to race the next season. No, obviously she worked hard, she won it. That's the way that it is. But to me, I would think that you get off your ass a little bit earlier and say, by the way, I'm not going to race this year. We came into this season not even knowing if either one was going to race, because we weren't hearing much from either side, and it's just kind of weird. I think that Cross is on a comeback.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I think Cross is on a comeback. I think that the feelings seem to be there. The enthusiasm seems to be there. It's just we don't have it like we did 15 years ago at the top level in this country. And we need those people.
You're not going to because I'll say it, because people have gone away from it to go race gravel.
And some are coming
it's easier.
back.
Well, yeah, because they realized, in order to do that, you have to dedicate way too much of your time to it, and it's not worth it.
So, Rob, it sounds like
opinion.
You're saying that if you've won the national championship, you would prefer to see somebody say, hey, if you're thinking that this is going to be maybe the end of your career, you would like to see them honor the jersey by racing the next season.
Not necessarily.
In the jersey?
Not necessarily.
That's how I took it.
I just, oh God, I don't know how to say this in a way that, I am an asshole, so it doesn't matter. It's like, when you're not going to race, and if you're the current reigning national champion, and like I said, I feel like that's a position in this specific sport that is fairly meaningful. Take the time to be like, at least publicly say, yeah, I'm not going to race. The only reason why we know that she's not racing this year is because everyone sought her out and really kind of chased her down and said, give us a story. To this day, if that had not happened, we still wouldn't know whether or not she was going to show up and race anything. Now, she doesn't know anybody in explanation. I get that. But don't expect me to be like, oh, wow, what a great thing she did, when she does give her reasoning for it. To me, it's just somebody that just abandoned the sport at the top. Cool. But now I don't know how many people were doing it, but any of the kids that were going, I'd love to see a national champion at a UCI race and go up and get an autograph and whatever. To me, it's an opportunity that's gone. Granted, who cares? It's her life. She decided not to race anymore. She gets the opportunity, obviously, to choose that and do whatever the hell she wants. But I don't know. It's just, that's why it just rubbed me the wrong way, just in terms of how I don't know that there's a right way to do it. If she's going to leave at this point in her career, I don't know that there's a right way to do it. It just seems like,
I mean, who really cares? I mean, she, if anything, she doesn't care. She's like, I don't care. I don't care what you think, Rob. Yeah. I don't care what you think, Tim. I don't care what you think, Leah. This is the way I feel about it. This is how I'm going to go about it. Who cares? I mean, she lost her sponsorship with Cannondale when that folded. So she's got no support to continue to have a lengthy career, even if she wanted to go to Belgium.
Well,
she's not going to get the same level of support she had.
I think that's probably a bit of my issue. And it has nothing to do with her. I think it's just that I've time and time again seeing those with talent, and it's more specifically on the women's side because they just don't have the sponsorship opportunities that we see, and there aren't a lot of sponsorship opportunities for anybody.
There's not even a lot of sponsorship opportunities on the men's side.
But I've seen women over the years that have colossal amounts of talent just go, and walk away from it. And because they got to get a job, they got to do something else, or, what happens mostly in women's racing is a lot of women athletes do feel as though they should sideline themselves during a period in time when they want to have a family or what have you. Not all, some do, some don't, but it tends to be a repeating theme. And it's like, I don't know. It's totally, this is just my own personal, it's just like, if you're that good, you don't give up and walk away from it completely. That's my own personal thing.
Why not?
I don't know.
Heart's not
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, and that's the thing. We don't know how much of her decision was just based on
it's none of my
her
business.
interest levels went someplace else,
true.
or if she was frustrated by not getting the kind of support that she needed to continue. That may have been a factor. It may have had nothing to do with it. Who knows? We're all just sitting here guessing.
No, and I'm not guessing about anything. I don't. It is none of my business, and I don't care. It's one of these where. And I'm going to utter my phrase that you absolutely hate and you cannot stand. And you always tell me, don't say it. Racers race. That's what's driving that in me that makes me go, I mean, if you got to pull back and do other things in life, you do other things in life, but it doesn't mean you don't throw your leg over a bike and go race your bike. It's whether that's in your local race or doing whatever. I mean, she is active. I didn't read much of the article, but I read enough to see that she is active coaching in like a NICA team. So that's good. That's awesome. That's good to see. Because to me, that's still doing something with the sport. It bugs me when people walk away. And I guess some people have to do it. That's what they need for themselves to be able to transition to that next phase in their life.
Would it make a difference if she wasn't a national champion? Would you feel differently about it? Like if Clara was good, she was,
I think so.
Top three all the time, but the fact that she has stars and stripes bothers you more?
I think maybe it does. I think in the back,
it's just a jersey with a print on it. I know. That's all it is.
I understand. But I think to me, it's the fact that she is national champion and didn't say anything to anybody coming into the season.
Maybe she didn't know. Maybe she was still trying to figure it out.
But I think that's why I feel the way that I do.
Yeah.
That's my own thing.
You're being a little judgy, I think.
Okay.
But
you know what? This world needs a little bit more judgment. Right?
Oh yeah, exactly.
And I'm being a little soft with my judgment.
It absolutely doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm judging you as being judgmental.
I think that's the reason why so everybody that's read the article about why she's leaving has said it's a great piece. I think it's a great move. I really respect everything. And it's just I've had the opposite reaction and I'm not sure why. So a bit of this is just me walking through my own thought process to figure out why I feel that way.
All right.
I agree. It's not my position and it's not my business and I don't care.
I can speak a little bit to this, dude. I've been racing for 43 years at what I would consider maybe a high level. Maybe. That's up for debate. But when you said racers race, right? Like I always want to race. I'm a racer. I want to race. But there's been a million times, or not a million, but there's been several times where I'm just like, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
I'm done with it. Like I don't want to deal with the pressure. I don't want to deal with the training. I don't want to deal with the this, the that, and the other thing. I'm just done with it. And maybe she reached that point.
No, I get it.
Like, Who wants to be living out of a suitcase for,
For
45
nothing.
weekends a year?
For nothing.
Right. For not even barely making crumbs, when she's probably making more money, probably in an internship doing what she's doing than she ever made, right, racing a bicycle.
I guess
Let's be honest.
in the back of my
Nobody's
head,
breaking the bank racing
no,
bicycles.
I know, and I guess in the back of my head, I think that's why I take issue with it. I don't think the choice for her to do the right thing for her and to no longer race was
Yeah.
necessarily a brave decision. I think it was an easier decision. And I think the brave choice is the one to continue doing this shit, even though you're not going to get rewarded. I don't know
What's
why.
the point?
I don't know why I feel that way, but I think
That's
why I've
that's
had
like the
issues
football
with it.
player that retires and then comes back out of retirement and sucks. Why would you want to leave like that? I mean, I see your perspective of not honoring the jersey and racing out your last season, but if your heart's not in it and you have the jersey on, it's gonna suck to finish 15th with a national champion's jersey on. I'd rather just walk away at the top.
And my thinking doesn't make any sense even to me, because there's times where people have left the sport and
Do you
retired.
get it, Leah? Do you understand
No,
this thinking?
no. I mean, there's times where people have retired and left the sport, and then I've been mad when I see them in a race again in the future.
These are the kinds of conversations that usually end up with a nice spirited argument between he and I here at the shop.
Good few hours.
Let's have that. Let's give the audience what they want: a spirited argument.
Well, I'm already going to get tons of hate mail on this one, so I don't really tons of hate mail.
No, everyone, you're entitled
all two
to your
people
opinion.
who have an opinion on this might actually email me on this one. So, it's.
I mean,
it is what it is. I mean, maybe
you would feel the same if Bruner did the same thing, just didn't show up. It was just
I'd be
two
upset
jerseys.
if it meant he didn't show up at all because he left the sport. Yeah.
I think everybody has valid reasonings, and I would always prefer to give everybody the benefit of the doubt instead of presupposing what their decisions were or why they did it or how they did it.
Yeah.
I think it's really shitty to sit here and be upset that somebody did it the way they did it without knowing their whole story. And
correct.
Yeah. So.
No, I get it. I get it.
And this fly,
she's on to greener pastures.
This fly is pissing me off. I need a fly swatter.
The race for the women's championship should be good this year.
Yeah.
I don't think it will be.
Well, we'll
Why?
see. I am looking forward to
Clara's
watching.
not there?
Well, no, because we don't have a good women's field right now. I'll say it. I mean, I'm not the only one that said that. It's been that way. And that's kind of where, all the comments from like Clausel.
Are you just taking that off of social media?
No,
or
just
what?
statements that people. Well, just and from watching it, we don't have the depth of talent in the women's field that we had 15 years ago, 10 years ago.
No, but we have the talent that's currently in the field that can fight for the championship. It's going to make for good racing.
It will make for good racing in terms of the battle between the top 2 or 3 that have the talent.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
That's all the podium is 3 people. Let them fight it out.
And at this point, it looks like it's going to be Katie Klaus?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? Good for her.
I think it's going to be. And everybody knows that I am more of a fan of women's cyclocross and have been forever. But I think this year's men's race is going to be more interesting. Just because of the depth of the field and how many people really have the talent to go for the top position. And in our women's field currently, we only have literally 2 or 3 that can go for it. And it's going to come down to who's not sick and who can actually make the travel plans.
Well, what's the difference between this year and every year that Katie Compton lined up? It was just give her the jersey.
It was pretty deep, and there were a lot of people that were really
give her the jersey. No one's going to beat Katie.
Yeah.
It's no different for those 16 years that she won it in a row.
I am in a
How
reserve.
exciting! How exciting is that?
I'm going to reserve all judgment until I am watching the races on Saturday
Oh, yeah.
in Louisville in December, because I get to be there and watch, and I'm excited about that.
I do think that's pretty cool that they finally didn't make the elite races the last races of the weekend.
It makes it interesting for sure.
Gives, at least keep some people around.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it also, from what I heard, it opens the ability for even the pros to take part in that single speed relay race or whatever that's going to be on Sunday this time.
A single speed
relay?
relay?
Isn't that what they do?
The men's single speed race is on Sunday. That's the last race of the whole.
Well, I thought there was a.
There's
that relay race.
There's some sort of fun race.
Yeah.
That's like the last race of the whole thing. It's just some. I forget what they're calling it. There's like the last two races. It's like the men's single speed and then some champions race. They call it a champions race or something.
Yeah,
party race.
And it was absolutely a really cool race when we had it here, and everybody was wanting to be in it. And there's a lot of people that haven't been able to do it because it's usually like the day before the actual championships. So I've heard some people say that they're happy they've got an opportunity to do that race. Yeah. So maybe. I don't know. So anything that comes out of my mouth today is wrong. So I'm just in that mood.
No, it's not wrong. It's your opinion.
Do I need to take a dump on the table here in the middle of everything just for everybody's entertainment? Because that's what I feel like I'm mentally doing.
No. You have your opinion, and you're allowed to have it.
So anyway, coming up for the rest of the year, tech stuff. And other great news. Challenge has released a special edition Fango, and they are doing a short run of them. They've already done the run, and I just happen to have a couple on hand. They showed up this morning, and while we were sitting here recording, I've asked them when the embargo was done, and as we were sitting here and recording, the embargo lifted, so I can actually mention something. There should be a article on Bike Rumor here soon, but it is. I do have them in hand, so it is a Fango tread. They look beautiful. They're fresh, brand new Fango tread on a pro casing, but it feels like a team edition casing, and they are orange sidewalls. I mean, orange. So they are like Dutch national team kind of sidewalls, and they are wicked looking cool. So I'm kind of excited to see him again. Just to see him in hand. We've already got, I think, one set sold before they even showed up, because even though I wasn't supposed to talk, I mentioned it to somebody who's in the industry. So, it was all good anyway. But so that set's already sold. But if you're interested in the set, I do have a couple laying around. We'll take a picture and put it up there.
Explain to the listeners where the Fango lies in the range.
It lies hanging from the rack right down there.
You know what I'm talking
in terms
about.
of tread, Fango is back in the day they had Dune, Grifo, and Fango. Those were the treads, and they're the oldest treads that they had, going back to the Clement era, I believe. I think Fango is the newest of the three of those. So Dune is your file tread for snow, ice, and sand. Your Grifo is your mid tread, or your what I call grass tread. And then you had Fango, which was supposed to be your mud tread. The thing that they kind of realized over time, and it was my all-around tread for probably 8 years or so, maybe, until they came out with their modern lineup. I'll call it the modern lineup, but that's the Chicane, the Limas, the Baby Limas, that kind of filled in the middle there and actually gave us a full mudder. I think the Limas is probably one of the most aggressive mudders on the market, in my opinion. Outside, the Rhino's a pretty good tread as well too, but that's from Dugast. The Fango is supposedly a mud tread, but it's not really a mud tread. It's not aggressive enough for full-on mud. So it's that kind of in between. So if you're running a Grifo and you find that you're sliding around in your races because you're doing early morning races, then a Grifo or a Fango might be a nice switch to it. Obviously the Baby Limas has kind of filled that spot of what we would consider to be, or the Flandrian now has filled that spot and is probably what more people would go with. This would be slightly more aggressive than the Baby Limas, and I would consider it between the Baby Limas and the Limas, but more towards the Baby Limas. It looks wicked when you look at it. It looks like massively aggressive, but it really isn't when you're riding it. That's why it didn't end up becoming the ultimate mud tire. It doesn't have that kind of overwhelming aggression and grip.
So why did they bring it back out?
Because it's, for a lot of people, it was their favorite tire. It was a very popular tread with a dedicated segment. So they brought it back out, but they brought it back out in a very limited quantity because, let's face it, it was a limited segment, and we're a part of that. I'm a part of that limited segment. And they aren't selling it to everyone. They said they're selling it to their cyclocross partners, so shops around the country that are specifically, aligned with them and doing cyclocross work, of which there's quite a few. I talked to your closest one. You can always talk to me if you want a bunch of them, and I can see if we can grab some more of the limited run that they do have. So it's not like they're bringing it back to put it in their lineup. This is definitely kind of I don't want to say a one-off, but it's a current quote-unquote one-off thing. That's just kind of fun and kind of fun to see.
For those that want a little piece of nostalgia.
Yeah. And they're not super expensive. I believe MSRP on them is under $100.
Tubular only.
Tubular only, as cyclocross was meant to be, as God created it.
Hey, I ran tubeless this weekend.
I know. That's why I was saying that, to see
Wild.
if I get a
How do you feel the difference,
reaction from
Tim, between tubulars and tubeless?
I was having a conversation with a gentleman, and it's like, for the longest time, the PDX has been my go-to because it's just a great go-to tire for any conditions, albeit it would probably have been slow on this course that we raced over the weekend. So getting away from that and getting on to a Griffo was a little different, obviously, for the tread pattern and various reasons. And the hard thing is you ride tubulars for so long, no matter what tread, and you get used to, like, okay, the track is this way, I'm going to start here and here.
Yep.
Right? And then you're comfortable with it. The hard thing is nailing down a tubeless pressure consistently. But I feel like I did pretty well with it. Like, I think I've raced them around here at higher pressures than I did over the weekend. I think I did 24.5 in the front and 25 in the rear. And I did that for pre-ride. That was just like guessing. And I'm like, it feels pretty good. But then I didn't realize, after all the pre-ride and earlier races, the burn-in that the track got and how much looser it got, especially with a Grifo tread. So for Sunday, I went 24, 25. I took a little bit out of the front and kept the rear, and I felt comfortable. I had sufficient enough grip.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, I like the Grifo tread.
Yeah.
I would prefer it certainly in a tubular over a tubeless.
Yeah. I got a stack downstairs. Just saying.
Yeah, but it's almost November.
It's October 22nd. It is not almost November.
Yeah. So I felt comfortable. Never once was I like, oh, don't be too aggressive in this corner because you'll burp it. Like, I never thought about burping it.
Yeah.
Right.
I just went for it, and it held up. I mean, it might be a different story on a different style of track or in, different conditions. Maybe if the track were more bumpy, because there's only so much pressure you can put in a tubeless before you start like rattling your brain.
Yeah.
So it's because it's less supple. It's a little bit more hard to find that ideal pressure.
I think, well, I mean, they're 300 TPI, so they're pretty supple, but I think it's the the tubeless and just
Right.
like the burp factor.
Right.
Um,
And there's always a
so
little bit of that risk. Like I always think of it
yeah.
too, because somebody asked me, like, well, what do you, consider like if you get a flat on a tubular, theoretically, you can still ride it until you get
Mhm.
to the pits, where
Yep.
a tubeless is
Yeah.
just going to come off the rim, more than likely.
I mean, you could run inserts in your
Yeah, I was gonna
tubeless.
say if you
Could.
ran an insert or liner,
Yeah.
it might
But
stay
at
on.
that
but
point, it's not, to me, it's just like, why is it really worth the hassle at this point?
no, and
Um,
that's one of those things
Yeah.
where it's like, let's add something more just so that we can get it
Right.
kind of close to what a tubular is.
Well-
it's like,
Well, you have to figure this. You have a tubeless tire, and then you're going to put an insert
Right.
in, and the cost is going to be the same as a tubular.
oh, they already are, as it is
and on
now.
top of the sealant.
So
and,
like,
and
you
just
know.
as much hassle as dealing with tubulars
Yeah.
at this point.
that's the thing is it's
Yeah.
like when I go and I look at it, and if I look at the number of seasons I get on a tubular, without really having to, I just got to air it up. Tubulars, and I know some people would just laugh at me for saying tubulars are less work than a tubeless at this point, and I'm the one that's working on them all the time. And they represent a better value. They're already less expensive in a lot of cases than a lot of top end tubeless tires are. I mean, if
So
you look at the
more work
MSRPs,
up
they're within
front.
$20 or so.
When you say less work, you mean most of that work is invested up front with the tubular, and then
yeah,
you
just cleaning and
ride it.
gluing.
And as long as you don't get a flat,
You just ride it. Make sure they're clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you gotta take care of them. You can't put them away wet and muddy. You gotta, especially with the more sensitive casing.
Definitely. But it's like the painful thing is when you have brand new tread and you just get a wicked slice.
Yeah.
It's like, I just spent $100 on this tubular.
Yeah.
It's garbage now, when literally there's still the little hairs on the tread, and it's like, that's the painful. That's the painful.
Definitely painful. But if you got a slice in a tubeless, same deal.
You could you just plug it.
Yeah. But I mean, like a slice. A lot of you can put a patch on the inside of it, but you're still not going to trust it. Just like I can take that brand new tubular and send it to Tire Alert and have them put a new inner tube in it. And for the cost of doing it's almost worth buying a new tubular anyway.
I mean, for doing what you need to do on a cyclocross track at speed, nothing beats a tubular.
And that's the thing that is really seriously lost on a lot of people.
Well, it's all the people that don't believe in tubulars are just believing the marketing behind tubulars.
Right. Well, and I think it's more. It's a combination of factors.
Don't get me wrong.
It seems like an ancient art form to so many people when it really isn't. I've done videos out there and teach you how to glue. It's not that hard. It seems like way too much work and it's too messy and too much of a hassle. It's really not. Maybe the first time you do it, it might seem intimidating, but it's not that hard. And there are so many shops that just don't do it anymore. That you can't just run. You'd be like, you know what? I don't feel comfortable doing it. I'm going to take it to my local shop. So now you're in this situation where, if you're lucky enough to be in our area, there's more than one of us that can glue your tires for you pretty easily. If you're in a large cyclocross community, you can find somebody that can glue your tires pretty easily.
Well, and I think that's your point. There's a point there that you've got the equipment to clean a rim. So if you're
more
not
easily.
dealing with a brand,
but
more,
I was cleaning
more
rims
easily.
before that.
Yeah. So but you can't. It's very cumbersome and time consuming if you're just sitting there by yourself at home doing it.
So it's in my opinion, it's those factors that have created this push and drive and desire to go that direction with tubeless. And it's now people have experience with tubeless on road. They have experience with tubeless in mountain bike. They have experience with tubeless in gravel. And it's just a natural extension for them. To them, it's just like inner tube technology. It's something they understand. And so they don't think of it as all that big of a deal. But really, when you get down, you put together the rim tape, your tubeless valves, your sealant, and a high-quality tubeless, you're into the same price range, whether people realize it or not.
All right.
Oh, you definitely are.
All right.
You definitely are.
Quick other technical question. What are your thoughts on glue these days? What are you using? Mastic still?
Yeah, Vittoria Mastic one. I will say that
100%.
Panasonic is a nice Panasonic's got a nice
Panasonic's been around now for not too long.
Oh no, eons apparently.
Has it? Okay.
But I wasn't as familiar with it. But we did have to jump to it last year, 2 years ago, when there was that massive mastic shortage.
Right.
And I got to say, I do like the performance of it. So if you can get a hold of it, that's fine. Use it. But I still, me personally, I stick with mastic. I do think that mastic 1 is one of those things where, and now that I've said, hey, it's not that hard, anyone can do it and everything, it's one of those things where it can be temperamental, the glue itself. And that's depending on the batch, depending on how it was stored and it's shipped, and you're never going to know any of that stuff. So I guess what I'm saying with that is if you need to order some mastic, get it from somebody that you know has probably got a fresh supply. Or just don't go to your local shop that has tubes sitting there on the counter that have been there as long as you've been going to the shop and have an inch of dust on them. Those are the tubes I would not use.
What is the shelf life, do you think, on a tube of glue from mastic? Roughly, give it a range.
I don't know.
2 years?
No,
3 years?
I would say like 3 to 5 in that range.
Oh, that's good. I didn't expect that.
Probably 3-ish. Well, it all depends. You know, I mean, if it was sitting on a counter and that counter has sunlight that hits it every day, and that glue is going through this temperature range,
no good.
You know, every day throughout those 2 years, then yeah, no, it's probably a problem. If I went downstairs and I saw a tub, I take all the tubs that I buy and I have our 10s, whatever you want to call them, and I put the date on there when I receive it. And I get direct from Vittoria. Now, I have no idea how long it's been sitting at Vittoria. And I have no idea how long it was sitting in Europe before they put it on the boat to send it to Vittoria. I don't know what time of year they put it on the boat. I don't know what kind of temperature variations it went through in the container or anything else like that. So I get that. But I tend to know that Vittoria is almost notoriously out of stock, which means that it's not sitting around there for very long. It seems like every year they have supply issues, you know, so it's like, I know the stuff that they have is less than a year old, and I put my date on when I get it. I work from the oldest jars, you know, first in, first out. That's an old inventory term, FIFO. And I work that way through it as I use it. I tend to not have enough on hand that it goes for more than one season if it's sitting around, if that makes sense. Right now I'm down to 110, and I'm hoping to make it through the rest of the season with that 110. I think I probably can, but I may order a couple as backup just to have them around.
I have some in my basement at home that's been down there for about 10 years. You want that?
I would not use it. Here's the other thing too. If you're using the 10s, I've said this before on here, but I'll say it again. If you're using the 10s, the second you open it and expose it to air and you start to consume some out of there, you're kind of triggering, it's losing some of its solvent that's in there. And when it's doing that, especially if it drops down, you've got like an air pocket at the top of it, you lid it, put the lid back on, you know, you can use it again if you're going to use it within the next few weeks or whatever. But I knew one guy that would take marbles, glass marbles, and drop them in there to take up that excess room. And so that because basically you got that air in there, and that your more and more solvent out of the glue is just going to kind of get into that air space in there. And when you pop it open the next time, it's just gone.
And about
interesting.
How many wheel sets can you glue up with one of those tins?
I don't know.
Would you say?
Everyone always asks me that. They always say, how much glue do I need? Enough to stick the tire.
Well,
you know?
if somebody wants to know, do I buy the little tubes or do I buy the whole tin?
If you're only gluing for yourself,
I have 4 wheel sets. I'm going to do. Is it
4 wheel sets? I would get a couple tens.
Okay.
If you have 4 wheel sets, I get it probably 2 tens, and then you know maybe a couple of the tubes to have hanging around, just to have hanging around as backup.
And your second choice, if that Mastic 1's out of stock, then is Panasonic. It sounds like.
Yeah, that, or I tell people to go find somewhere else to glue them. I don't know.
Nice.
You know, it's different. It's different for me, in my opinion, in that I can't afford to fail. I can't just kind of go, okay, well, this should work, and hand it to people.
I am asking you questions, though, that people that want to do their own work at home.
Right.
To have that.
That's what I mean. So if I was doing it for myself, I would try other stuff. Continental glue would probably get the job done. I have never been overly impressed with any Continental glue that I've seen. So like when people do glue with Continental and then eventually bring it to me and they either have to put a new tire on or it rolled on them and, you know, they want me to fix it or whatever. If it's, you can tell it's Continental glue and it's not good. Also, Vittoria has a new version of Mastic out. They've had it out for a few years and I have not even tried it, to be honest with you. It's supposed to be a one coat and done, like an immediate kind of thing. And I looked into it again this year thinking I would try it. I just, you know, I know it works. And I don't want to be a curmudgeon. I mean, I'll test stuff, but going back to that point I had earlier, I can't afford to have a problem. So, you know, people that pay me to do this don't pay me to test things out, you know, on them. So, you know, I don't think, Tim, I don't think you want to be thinking about it going into a turn, you know. You just kind of go with it.
You know, I trust you. You're my guy. You're my gluer. I can give you a wheel on Wednesday, pick it up on Saturday, and race it on Sunday. And when I race it, not even worry about it. So,
not to say that I'm
you know,
infallible. I will never say that because shit happens. You know what I mean? But
yeah, I mean, some of that, some if someone rolls a tubular, it could be not your fault.
right,
It's
it could be
error.
a billion things. But
Yeah.
I have a process whereby I have reduced, in my opinion, reduced the variables of the equation. And I've reduced them to the point where I feel as though I can more than adequately control the outcome. But, you know, that's like saying I make sure that all the planes that fly, and that only one or two, you know, explode in a year. You know,
Don't say that.
one or two exploding in a year is still a very bad thing, you know.
Oh yeah. Even one rolled tubular is bad.
Yeah. And it's
you know,
every time it's still to this day, I have glued so many over so many years that to this day, when I hear somebody go, I rolled a tubular in a race, it makes me pucker up a little bit because I'm wondering,
when I
did
hear
I do
people
that
say
one?
that, I just tell them to find a new gluer.
Well, usually they go, oh yeah, I haven't glued this one in 5 years or whatever.
Do you remember last year? I think it was relay cross. I think I did 2 races, maybe even 3. I don't remember. And I just grabbed a set of tubulars out of my garage. It had been sitting there for God knows how long. I don't know how many years it's been since they've been glued. I just aired them up and went. And
the glue
I noticed something a little weird in the first race, but I just ignored it and I raced. And in the second race, or maybe in the second race, I was like, I would go through a turn and I would feel this like whoop, 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 whoop. And then I was just like, what was that? I'm straight. I'm fine. And I got turn of whoop, whoop, whoop. And it was like the tires trying to come off the rim. I realized the glue was dust.
Oh, total dust.
But I finished the race. I babied the heck out of it in the turns and just hammered it in the straights and then tiptoed around the turn and then hammered the straights. And I still finished it, stayed on the rim.
If you know,
that was fun. I was kind of laughing about it.
You can compensate for it, but I remember you came up to me and you were like, hey, I think maybe this tire's rolling.
And you took it and went,
I went, bloop, bloop, just the whole thing, just dust, just this big poof of dust.
It's like I didn't die. They're Amy.
And I do have, if you are wondering, I do have a video out there on my channel, Cymet. Where I have some tech videos. There's a video on there that tries to explain when to determine whether or not your tire needs to be re-glued. The easiest thing for me, when people come to me and they ask me if it needs to be re-glued, I let the air out and then I just kind of push up on the sidewalls as I go around and it's hard to describe, but I have this feel for it.
You can feel if there's if it's going to start to give, or if it starts going crack, crack, crack because it's so dry.
Yeah.
Versus it's got a little sponginess and that little grab to it that it's.
Or if it's not even moving, if it's just like welded on, then that's they're indicators. And I go through a lot of them in that video. I think it's been a long time since I put out that video, but I think that would give you some information. But in essence, if you're in doubt, then just get them re-glued. If people that come up to me and they go, well, how long can it go? I don't know. I just have to judge them by what I see when they come in and I take a look at them. If you know that they haven't been done in like 5 years, then, you should probably get them redone. And the thing that I always say, I don't like to re-glue existing tires. tires that have glue on them, because I can't get all that glue off. And if there's a reason why we're regluing it anyway, is because the glue is basically failing, then even if I put fresh glue on top of it, underneath that, you still have that old bond and that old layer.
It's so painful to walk in the shop and see brand new tread in the garbage.
Yeah. I've done it. I do it a lot.
It's just like, oh God, it's so painful.
But I look at it as most of the time those tires have gotten 5 years, 4 or 5 years, at least 3 years.
Seasons.
Yes, seasons. And
not full years.
Well, but still, I mean, if you're doing road racing, how many tires are you going through in a year?
What's that?
Yeah, well, or gravel. How many tires did you go through in gravel this year? I know I think I went through 5 or 6 this year, maybe, tires at least.
No, not me. I still got one pair.
I know I managed to sneak through, I think, 3 road seasons on the same set of tubulars when I was racing tubulars on the road. And
I don't race. I would never.
The last year, I knew I was taking a little bit of a chance because they were looking a little like they should have been replaced, but I nursed them through.
Well, and then you let Kenny borrow those, and then he's been riding those around on group rides.
He's racing them.
He's been riding them on group rides.
I wouldn't. No tubulars on the road for me. I won't even do tubeless on the road. Nope.
I'll do tubeless on the road, but yeah, I'm not a huge fan. Nope. I do it more so that later I can go, see, that's why it's a bad idea. And then, what is it? I do tubeless on, I'll do tubeless on the road. I do tubeless in gravel, I did most of a season in cross on tubeless a few years ago, and it was okay. But to your point, I never really felt like I could dial the pressures. I mean, I had a good range I could ride within, but I wasn't getting the most out of it for sure. Switching back to tubulars was amazing. So switching.
Yeah, like tubulars, you can live within like a certain range.
Yeah.
But tubeless, I think the range is too broad depending on the terrain or the weather conditions.
It's weird, and I don't know if I'm saying this right, but it almost feels like it doesn't have a linear response, kind of like a tubular does.
Meaning, what do you mean?
That it almost acts differently than a tubular. Like if in a tubular, like I can go down 1 PSI, you've got the flip side of the burp, impacting it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I will say I ran those pressures at 24.5 and 25 or 24, 25, and I rimmed out a ton. There was a pretty rocky, rooty section where I just was like, boom, 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 and I was like, oh, hope we make it.
All right, I'm getting lit up like a Christmas tree here by Julie, so I'm hoping to God this isn't anything bad. We've got all sorts of stuff going on in the family right now.
So.
Well,
Perfect.
We're at an hour in plus whatever the tech problem is earlier, and I'm able to link back in. So we'll be a little bit over. Sorry if it's a long one, but I knew I wanted to get one done while it was still fresh in our minds. And this upcoming weekend is Bartlett, if you're a part of the CCC. If you're not a part of the CCC, hopefully you're a part of some sort of cyclocross scene in your area. As always, drop us a line at roadisdead@gmail.com. All one word, roadisdead@gmail.com. Ask us about any topics you'd like for us to cover, and we'll try to go over it. Apart from that, hope to see you out there. Buy yourself some chamois cream, and you can always email in to be a part of the chamois cream giveaway. Each episode we do it. Just be sure to include your address. There's still some people that don't include their addresses, so include your address, and here's hoping you win. Hope to see you out there. Enjoy the ride. Jeez, Julie's lighting.